Hotel, what's up, guys? This is going to be real quick. Make sure you go out and get my upcoming book that's going to be released later this month, August 2020, called Big Game Hunting. Big Game Hunting. I expose so much corruption within this book that your mind is going to be blown. I go back decades, and I show you where a lot of this stuff began. I show you how it evolved. I show you who was involved. I show you who the major players are, and I also show you documented proof of the things that I'm saying. So what I'm going to do now, you see the screen. I'm going to show you guys a piece of the evidence that I share in my book, Big Game Hunting. Now, this is an article that was ran in the Texas City Sun on December the 5th, 2003. Yes, December the 5th, 2003. Like I said, I went all the way back into the past, decades even, and I dug up the records linking this conspiracy, right? And putting the narrative in a coherent form to where it will make sense to anybody who reads the book. You're going to understand exactly what took place. Now, you see I have a certain section of it circled, but let me just give you a little brief background if you haven't been watching my videos. Now, that guy in the center, circled, he was the police chief of Texas City back during that time in the early 2000s, right? And so Circle was he claimed to have been forced to resign by Mayor Carlos Garza. Now, Mayor Carlos Garza had accused Circle and a couple of other officers of being involved with illegal arms deals. Now, Chief Robert Circle came back and said that he was being forced to resign in retaliation for something, right? So let's look at what Chief Circle said he was being retaliated on for. Go to the section that I have circled. It says, in a November 21st letter to the city, Circle states through his attorney that the city had retaliated against him by forcing him to resign for whistleblowing. Chief Circle maintains that he is being retaliated against for his actions in reporting violations by a Texas City police officer to the office of the district attorney of Galveston County, Texas, Mark Stevens, his attorney, stated in the letter. More particularly, in the time frame of July-August of 2003, Chief Circle reported and directed others at the Texas City Police Department to report the felony criminal actions of a Texas City police officer, Stevens wrote. Wait a minute, hold up, stop the presses. Listen to what they're saying. So this is what Chief Circle is saying took place. He is saying that he had direct knowledge, right? Direct knowledge and evidence of a Texas City police officer, someone who worked for him because he was the chief of the Texas City Police Department. He said, and he went to the DA and reported that there was a Texas City police officer committing felonies. And he basically snitched on him. He snitched on his own officer. Now imagine that, how bad the felony must have been for this Texas City police chief to snitch on his own employee. Right? Think about that. And so then he says when he went to the DA to become a whistleblower, to snitch, to tell what happens, he says that the mayor of Texas City, Mayor Carlos Garza, forced him to resign. So imagine that. You're the mayor of the city. Your police chief comes to you. And tells you that, hey, there is a felony that has been committed by one of my officers, by one of my Texas City police officers. And what the mayor does, the mayor forces him to resign. So in what Circle is telling us is that because he snitched on another officer, Mayor Carlos Garza retaliated on him. So you have to wonder, what did this officer do that committed the felony? And why was Chief Mayor Garza trying to protect him? right? Because what I want you to understand, before Chief Robert Circle came to be the chief of police in Texas City, he was only here for about a year, right? But before he was forced to resign, okay, he came from somewhere else. So he wasn't a local. He wasn't from Texas City. He wasn't from Galveston County. So he wasn't a local. He was an outsider. So apparently, what he is telling us is that Mayor Carlos Garza made him resign in order to protect that officer. So any thinking individual would have to ask what was going on behind the scenes where the mayor of Texas City would force his police chief to resign in order to protect a Texas City police officer who was guilty of felony criminal acts. And then if you just, it's been up there for a while, so you may just want to read over the entire article. But what the DA said was they were not going to indict that officer because there was insufficient evidence. Because it was, if a police chief took me to jail and said that he had knowledge of me committing a crime, they would lock me up because the police chief said it. A police chief's word hold a lot of weight. You guys know that. A lot of times when you run a stop sign or you're speeding, it's always your word against the officer. A lot of times there's no real evidence for these things. The evidence is the officer's word. So if you have an officer, a police chief no less, saying that one of his officers has committed a felony, but the DA ends up saying it's insufficient evidence to actually charge him with it. And then the mayor forces Chief Robert Circle to resign because he was a whistleblower, because he was an outsider that came in, and now he was snitching on the illegal machine that was running behind the scenes, right? And yeah, I'm telling you guys, listen, that's all I'm going to say for now. But when this book, Big Game Hunting, comes out, I'm telling you, get that book. You won't be you will not be disappointed. It's all fact, no fiction. And I bring documentation like this to prove everything I say. I bring newspaper articles, emails, eyewitness accounts, court records, guilty pleas. I show you officers signing for probation because of the criminal activity that they got caught up in. And quick disclaimer, I'm not attacking anybody. I'm not trying to destroy anybody's career. I'm not trying to make anybody look bad. I'm only putting this information out for the historical value of it. Now, spoiler alert, Circle won a settlement against the city for his firing. And I'm going to leave y'all with that. This your brother, Matthew Daniels, a.k.a. Ampu, a.k.a. The Chosen Few, a.k.a. The Real Bookworm. I'm not a bookworm. I'm the real bookworm. Make sure you get it right. And as always, world, may your name live on forever, and may your memory never die. Hotel, peace out.